coming from the hills overlooking beautiful and picturesque Monterey Bay and bringing you the news behind the news, the story behind the story. Hoping to convince you that reality is usually scoffed at, that illusion is usually king. But in the battle for the survival of a Western and Christian civilization, it's going to be reality and not illusion or delusion that will determine what the future will bring. And I need to remind you the views expressed here are not necessarily those of the owners, management, staff, sponsors, or supporters of the station you're listening to. They happen to be my views, and well, for the next hour, hopefully, they're going to be the views of Stephen Frank. And Stephen's been out this for about 50 years. He got started when he was in his teens, and he's been certainly trying to educate people about the great battle that involves certainly the system here in America. Stephen, thanks very much for being with us.
Well, I'm glad to be with you, Dr. Stan. It's a beautiful day in California.
It really is. Well, I want you to pick up and tell our listeners really about the very real problems we have, which are altering the way people look at the world, and certainly are part and parcel of this effort to undermine the very fabric of our society and make freedom, as we've noticed, simply a remembrance of things past.
Well, I'd like to bring up a subject that's close to my home. As you know, I live in Ventura County in Simi Valley. And a couple of days ago, I got notice that the President of the United States was shipping several hundred illegal aliens to the Port Hueneme Naval Base here in Ventura County. And the problem here is I had a conversation with a member of the City Council of Port Hueneme a couple of hours ago, and this council member was never told that this was happening. The City Council was never told. The city manager was never told. The commander of the naval base has known for weeks that this was going to happen. And he never told anybody that this was happening. And here's the effect on the people of Port Hueneme and the city and the surrounding communities. Plus, this is going on, even though I'm discussing Hueneme right now, this is going on in at least a dozen other communities around the state, around the country, where the president is shipping illegal aliens. Last week he shipped...
Wait a minute. Why would the president be shipping illegal immigrants, illegal aliens into our communities? He should be deporting them, shouldn't he?
He should be, and in fact, the reason he's giving to ship these illegal aliens to Port Hueneme is for the purpose of reuniting them with their parents. But here's the problem. All of these illegal aliens came from Texas, and they came from the border of Texas. So how could you reunite people with their parents in Mexico or Guatemala, El Salvador, when they come over in Texas, and you fly them 1,500 miles to Port Hueneme, California, put them on a naval base? FEMA is now taking charge of the naval base, and they've put up a 600-bed facility to start with. They could put up 2,000 if they wanted to. Then these kids, because the kids are between 12 and 18 that are being brought here, these kids are now going to be, because of California law and the Supreme Court decision, these kids are now going to go into the local Port Hueneme school district. No one prepared the district for this. The kids, if you've ever been to Port Hueneme Naval Station, it is easy to sneak out of. Remember, these are kids who snuck into this country, and if they go to a local public school, you'll never see them again at the naval station. So
hold that thought. We'll be back here in just a moment with Stephen Frank. Well, this is Dr. Stan here at Radio Liberty, and our guest this afternoon is Stephen Frank. And we're certainly talking about the fact that there is an organized effort in America to encourage illegal immigration. It's being fostered by the federal government. The federal government under Senator Obama knows exactly what they're doing. What people really don't understand is there is a secret agreement to unite the northern hemisphere, that's Mexico, the United States, and Canada, into one certainly unit, the United States of North America. But basically, of course, they're bringing in these students illegally. They're placing them in places all across the country. And then, of course, the whole idea is that they are here to go to school. They may be 12, 14 years of age. We're talking about bringing in thousands of illegal immigrants intentionally as part of this unification program. But the average individual has no idea what's going on. Would that be a fair appraisal, Stephen?
That's an exact appraisal of what's going on. The education system is going to be impacted. The health care system, who's going to pay for the health care? We know that the president has refused to pay for the incarceration of illegal aliens.
You go right ahead.
Not a problem. You're going to have these kids paid for not by the federal government, but by the local taxpayers. The school districts will become overcrowded. The healthcare system will be overcrowded. And, of course, these kids, knowing no better and knowing that they're criminals to begin with, you're going to see a spiking of bicycles being stolen, muggings and robberies, and other petty thefts in the Port Hueneme, the north part of Ventura County, and all because the president has decided to make Port Hueneme a hub for illegal aliens. He's done that without any adherence to the federal laws that says if he has these kids, he's supposed to deport them. As you may know, last week or the week before, he was caught sending several hundred illegal aliens found in Texas, flew them to Phoenix, and then dropped them off at a bus station and told them to now go home. Now, how many of those illegal aliens do you think really went home from a bus station in Phoenix, Arizona? And he's doing this all over the country. Air Force bases in
Hold that thought. We're going to be back here in just a moment at Radio Liberty.
Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, same thing is happening to that base. But there's about a dozen places so far that are being inundated with Barack Obama illegal aliens. These are people, and it's costing the federal government a great deal of money to transfer them, and instead of transferring them and deporting them, he's keeping them in the country. Now, here in California, these kids who hit 16 under California law also qualify to get a driver's license. So he's bringing kids to the state to get driver's licenses, to get free education, to get free health care, all at the expense of the local community, and at the same time to increase the number of crimes in the community. And he's doing this on the auspices of he's the president and no one can stop him. And, in fact, no one can stop him.
Okay, fine. Well, then what can be done? What can the average individual do as they try to simply disrupt the structure of our society and violate the laws which are very, very clear and concise?
Well, at some point in time, our elected officials need to stand up and say no more.
But they're not doing it, so that's the problem. They're just not refusing to take a stand.
Well, I've come to the conclusion if they don't take a stand, they don't get a vote. And if two people are running for an office and both don't take a stand, there's no reason to vote for either one of them.
But the thing that basically the problem we have, Stephen, is the average individual doesn't really understand what's going on. They don't understand that suddenly we have many people in both the Democrat and the Republican Party who are dedicated to this idea of consolidation of North America. This is what it's really all about. And this is really why they're bringing in all the children. This is why they're bringing in all the illegal immigrants. We have about 11 million of them. So the Obama administration, as the Bush administration before them, as the Clinton administration before them, all understand, but the average individual doesn't understand there's a subversive element that restructures society. And to have the United States of Europe and of North America and of Central America and South America, and we go to the polls and we vote every 4 years for politicians, and most of them go right along with the subversive element. It is subversive, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely subversive. One of the bigger problems of the open borders of the president, about 3 years ago, it was found that there were 15,000 Arabs that came through Mexico as illegal aliens, and even 10,000 Chinese that came through Mexico. We have no idea as to what type of people are coming through here. Plus, what we have done is the diseases that these people also bring to us, we don't check. Our federal government does not check the illegal aliens for the diseases that they bring into our country until after they are processed. Here's the problem. If they're not caught, or if the president refuses to process them, how do we know what communicable diseases they're bringing into the country also? So if you're an honest person from Mexico or an honest person from Guatemala and you want to come here to visit or to become a citizen, you go through the proper procedures, you get a medical report as part of that, and you come in here disease-free. The illegal aliens come in here with diseases, with crime. They come in here with the chance to take jobs. I did a story today on my newsletter that the President of the United States is allowing 520,000 illegal aliens to renew their work papers so they can work in this country. That means there are 520,000 hardworking, honest Americans that don't have jobs, but 520,000 criminals that do have jobs, per the President of the United States. If you ask why so many people have given up on work, it's because the President prefers illegal aliens holding jobs than he does honest Americans.
Well, we have a real problem here because there's an effort to change the structure of America, to merge us into this one world government. But first of all, they have to have all of these individual district areas. They have to have they unite the Asia, they have to unite Sydney, Africa, they have to unite South America, Central America, North America, Europe. They're doing this, and the average individual has no idea what's going on, or the fact that our leaders are not obeying our laws. They are part of this, I call it, subversive effort to unite the world and bring about a one-world government, a one-world financial system, and, of course, a one-world religion. Go right ahead.
Well, interestingly enough, you talk about this being a worldwide problem. I saw a story just a little while ago that the countries of Italy and France are now complaining to the European Union that tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of illegal aliens from Africa, mostly Muslim Brotherhood types, are now inundating those two countries. And there's nothing that the European Union is going to do to stop it. So the whole of Europe, which is a different type of problem than we have here in the United States, but still the idea that illegal aliens are free to roam with either terrorism or their corruption of the system and stealing from honest people it is a worldwide problem. It's not just something here in Port Hueneme or in California or even the United States. Illegal aliens are a national problem and an international one as well.
And the problem is that the average individual really doesn't understand what's going on. He knows something's going on. He knows more and more people having difficulty getting jobs. He sees all these people coming in here, and because some of them are hardworking people. They're not all bad people. They're here. They want a job. They may have a loyalty to their home, and they may be sending a lot of the money they're making home, but they are simply being utilized by this subversive element whose dedication is, first of all, to uniting the various blocks of the world, North America, South America, Central America, Europe, and then, of course, uniting the world. Would that be a fair appraisal?
That would be a somewhat fair appraisal. The only disagreement I have is that no illegal alien that is here is for a good cause. They steal jobs of honest Americans. They cost honest Americans a great deal in tax money. They crowd our schools, crowd our hospitals, and they know they are breaking the law. Good, decent people don't knowingly break the law, and they don't steal from honest people. And even though I can understand why some of them may come here thinking they're doing well for their family, by doing well for their family, they're stealing from honest American families. And that's not how you do well, by stealing from another person.
Well, we're in real trouble because, of course, we do not have adequate jobs. We have a shortage of jobs, and I really fear that there's going to be some very real repercussions coming to this. Well, if you're out in the listening audience and you have a question or comment, our telephone number is 1-800-725 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. Does the members of Congress and the Senate, do they understand what's going on? Do they understand that the president is working on a subversive program to undermine the sovereignty of the United States? This truly is a treasonous program he's involved in.
Well, one of the interesting sidelights to all this is that Speaker Boehner had wanted to present a bill to have comprehensive immigration reform, which really means amnesty for illegal aliens. Because of this the transportation of illegal aliens from one part of the country to another, and use of tens of millions of dollars, and destruction of local communities, the Republicans in Congress are not able to move anything dealing with illegal immigration, and the Democrats are afraid that as crimes increase and as school districts and hospitals become more crowded because of the latest violations of federal law by the president, that they could lose their seats in Congress if the Republican decides to make it an issue in their race, that no one is supporting the president at this time. Many support what the president wants to do, give amnesty, but none of them are willing to come forward with that proposal of amnesty, knowing that the American people are that much against it. And Dr. Stanwood, the most interesting fact of all this, the people that are hurt the most by amnesty, by President Obama, by the crowded schools, the crowded health care systems, the crimes, the people that are hurt the most are the Hispanic Americans and the Black Americans. Their jobs are being taken. The quality of their life is being harmed. Their ability to get quality education for their children and health care for themselves, their parents. These are honest American Black citizens and Hispanic citizens who are the first people harmed by President Obama's actions and policies. They are the ones that need to be screaming the loudest.
Yeah, sure should. Well, we're getting ready for a break. Let's go to Mordecai, who's calling from San Jose, who has a question. Hi, Mordecai. Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, well, I feel sorry for these people from the other countries, but it's like
go ahead.
Arrested in Mexico because he brought in 3 legal guns, and he's sitting in a prison down there in Mexico. Mexico upholds its laws if somebody comes into their country. Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, and we don't. And really, we should be deporting them. And, it's like I was cleaning a carpet on a certain area of Moffett Field one day and got to talking, and there's toxic fumes coming up from Moffett Field in the water. And when the people turn on the hot water, people are getting sick that are out there, and I'm not sure of the chemical, but you can Google it. The EPA has
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Mordecai, go right ahead. What was this you were saying? That certainly they're using toxic chemicals there in the rugs and other floor coverings. What's this about?
Well, let's put it this way. I can't. It's confidential as to who told me this. That this is reliable information. That a general refused to train his troops in Moffett Field over the weekend because of the toxic fumes that's coming out of the water. I think it's called TCE. I can't even pronounce it. It's a complicated name, but it's in the water, and it's so bad that the general refused to bring his troops in even over the weekend. And this gal knows another gal whose health is definitely declining as a result of the toxic fumes that are being emitted by the stuff that's in the water in Moffett Field. It's something else. But if you Google TCE, it would come up, Moffett Field, Mountain View. All
right, fine. Well, Mordecai, I really appreciate you bringing that. Anything else you want to bring up before we let you go?
Well, everybody get your www.radioliberty.com bumper stickers from Dr. Stan and put them on your vehicle. And pray for Dr. Stan.
God bless. Thanks very much. Well, let's quickly go to Kent, who's calling us from West Virginia. Kent, do you have a question or comment? Kent, are you there? I don't know what happened to Kent. Oh, Kent, are you there or not? Okay, Stephen, go right ahead.
Well, one of the more interesting factors of all this, there's an organization that was formed 20 years ago called AmeriCorps. It was formed by President Bush, and the purpose was to promote volunteerism and assistance to nonprofit organizations in the community nationwide. Most of the effort of AmeriCorps has been to help school districts with young teachers. And that's been a very good program, except it's been paid for by the federal government, which is probably and is indeed unconstitutional. But they do this program. Now we find out that President Obama has taken this program to help nonprofits, to help local school districts, and he has hired a whole bunch of attorneys under AmeriCorps and their purpose is to be the attorneys for illegal aliens to stop their deportation.
Now, why would the administration, the president, be hiring attorneys, to actually represent the people who are here illegally? You would think he would want to send them home. That's his obligation as president. But he seems to be more dedicated to this internationalist goal and to this goal of immigration and altering our society than he is to preserving America.
But think of it visually. Here we have the federal government on one side of the table trying to deport illegal aliens, and then we have the federal government on the other side of the table trying to keep them here. It's taxpayers' dollars being used and obviously wasted. Why do we have tax dollars to keep criminals in this country? If the ACLU or some other private organization wants to provide free or cheap legal advice to illegal aliens, I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with the federal government.
Hold that thought. We're going to be back in just a moment with Stephen Frank. Well, this is Dr. Stan, and our guest this afternoon is Stephen Frank, and we'll tell you how to get in touch with Stephen and get his material, but it's excellent. And Stephen is simply saying that there's an organized effort, certainly on the part of key people in government, certainly on one hand to deal with the illegal immigrants, and on the other hand actually to encourage the illegal immigrants to encourage them to come into this country illegally. Let's go to Kent, who's calling us from West Virginia. Kent, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I have a comment about something I saw today on a German television called Glober 3000, sort of a magazine-type program. And this isn't illegal immigration, but what it is they featured this situation where Chinese women are getting visas there's a whole racket going on where these women are like 7 or 8 months pregnant, and they're coming to the United States, and they're disguising their condition. And what it is they're being set up in houses, 7, 8, 9, 10 women to a house in some suburb, like this place. And the kids are being born in the United States, of course, with citizen rights, and of course they'll go back to China, and then they'll come back here as American citizens, take jobs and everything, maybe even run for president. So I think that's pretty much a scandal, and I don't know, I saw it on German television. I've never seen it on American television.
No, I'm sure you're absolutely right. Do you have any comment on that at all, Stephen?
Yes, in fact, it has been on Los Angeles TV because a lot of these women come into the San Gabriel Valley, which is east of the city of Los Angeles, and has major Chinese community, and there have been hundreds of these women found in homes and hospitals run by Chinese in the San Gabriel Valley, and exactly for that purpose, to have their babies here so they have dual citizenship. They're both American citizens as well as Chinese citizens, and that gives them more options down the road. It has been a scandal, and they've low-keyed it a bit, but it is still going on in the San Gabriel Valley, and I'm sure in other parts of the country.
And if you are born in the United States, you are automatically an American citizen, no matter under what circumstances you were born. Anything else that you wanted to mention before we let you go?
No, that's all. I'm glad at least people, that should be a national issue, but at least there's, well, thanks a lot.
Okay, very good. Well, this is Dr. Stan. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. We have Jim calling from West Virginia. And if we can get Jim on, well, we'd be glad to talk to him. But basically, if you have a question or comment about what's happening, let us know. Certainly, Stephen, what are some of the other issues, or is there anything else you want to develop on this issue?
Well, I might remind everybody, the United States is the only country in the whole world, the only country where if you're born here in the country, you're automatically a citizen. We are the only country in the world that has that. If you have a baby born in France, they're not automatically a French citizen. Have a baby born in China or Russia, they're not automatically a Chinese or a Russian citizen. The United States is the only country that allows people to be born here and by the function of birth become a citizen of the United States.
All right, fine. Well, let's go to Jim, who's calling us from West Virginia. And certainly Jim's a regular caller and certainly one of my favorite people. Well-spoken. Our telephone number, 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. Our guest is Stephen Frank. Jim, did you have a question or comment for our guest?
Well, I thank you for the compliment. Well, he's putting out so much information, I hate to interrupt him. But I've pretty much given up on the national government. I've heard that Sheriff Arpaio is doing wonderful things on our southern border. How much, and I'll listen just on the radio, how much can the local sheriffs do? Because we have more and more sheriffs.
All right, fine. Stephen, how much can the local sheriff do if he really has the courage to take a stand?
Well, actually, a local sheriff can do a great deal. The reason illegal aliens are doing so well in California is that the major counties in the state, their sheriffs refuse to pick up illegal aliens and turn them over to the feds. But then you have Arpaio and others, like Sheriff Mack, who are very careful about the Constitution and the law, and they obey the law and they enforce the law. And sheriffs in most places in the country are elected by the people. And these are the type of questions you need to ask candidates for sheriff. Will they obey and enforce the immigration laws as they do the laws against robbery and and muggings? We need to have solid sheriffs that represent the law, not represent the special interest. And Arpaio down in Arizona has done a magnificent job of being a role model for other sheriffs. There's a constitutional sheriff movement here in California that I guess 2 or 3 dozen California sheriffs have already signed on.
Hold the thought. right ahead. We were simply talking about the immigration, the illegal immigration into America. Certainly nobody's against illegal immigration, but there's an organized effort certainly to utilize America now as such a source as we begin to unite all of North America into one government. And basically, certainly President Obama is dedicated to this, but the average individual doesn't understand. We are actively encouraging illegal immigration, whether it's children or whether it's the parents. We're encouraging it. We have well over 11 million illegal immigrants, and the number's only going to rise as they destroy the sovereignty of our nation. Go right ahead, Stephen.
And that's the big problem, is that the sovereignty of our country is being challenged, and it's our government that is allowing it to be challenged from within. And instead of protecting us, they are promoting the illegal aliens over the interests and the needs of the honest, hardworking citizens of this country. As I mentioned a little while ago, I am just surprised that Hispanic Americans and Black Americans have stayed silent so long, because they're the ones that are truly being hurt. For instance, there's a major move here in California to create more affordable housing because we have an affordable housing shortage. Well, the reason we have an affordable housing shortage is because illegal aliens are taking up the affordable housing that's available, pushing out Americans from the affordable housing market and making them homeless. And these Hispanics and Blacks who are homeless or are a really poor straits, they don't argue against the illegal aliens who've not only stolen their jobs, but indeed have stolen their homes and their apartments. And the affordable housing crisis in this state and this nation is directly attributable.
Hold that thought. We'll be back in just a moment here. Well, this is Dr. Stan, and Stephen is certainly talking about the very real crisis here in America among the legitimate blacks and the legitimate Hispanics who are suddenly being deprived of their homes and jobs by the people coming in here illegally, who are organized, and basically more and more people who are losing their homes, and I'm talking about black people, Hispanic people losing their homes because, of course, they do not have an organization standing behind them, whereas, of course, there is an organization standing behind those here who are here illegally and is largely funded by the great tax-exempt foundations and other subversive organizations. And, ladies and gentlemen, these are subversive organizations. Now, certainly, if you'd like to give us a call, our telephone number is 1-800-1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. We have powerful subversive organizations in America whose loyalty is not to America, but to this idea of a one world government, a one world financial system, and the destruction of Christianity. And if you have a question or comment on that subject or anything else that Stephen is talking about, give us a call. Stephen, before we go on, I want you to tell our listeners how they can get to your website, how they can support your organization, and how they can help you get the truth out about the illegal immigration that's taking place today.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Stan. At 3 o'clock every morning, I put out 10 stories that the mainstream media either misleads, or misrepresents. And you can get a free copy of my newsletter, the California Political News and Views, by going to capoliticalreview.com, capoliticalreview.com, and you could sign up on that site. When you go to that site, on the far right of the banner is the words California Political News and Views. You can click on that, and on the website directly, you could see that day's news from the California Political News and Views.
And of course, it'll come regularly. There's no charge for it. An excellent sort of information. Let's go to Lauren, who's calling us from Ohio. Again, our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. Lauren, do you have a question or comment for our guest?
Yeah, I had a comment. I just wanted to make one correction with regard to being a U.S. citizen just because you're born here. You're born here, but that makes you an American it makes you a non-citizen national. And the way you can check this is look at a U.S. passport application. U.S. passports are only issued to U.S. citizens, which is a corporate citizenship, or non-citizen nationals. That means you were born here. But here's the thing. People breaking into the country and then having the children here, fraud negates consent. So you can't, even though you've got a corporate criminal government who's saying, come on in, we're going to let you in, what they're doing is a criminal activity, and it's fraud. And just because the people came here thinking that they were going to be able to stay and everything was going to be okay, no, those people can all be removed from this country. And remember, what makes you a citizen is the contract that you engage in with the corporate government. So do you want Social Security? Do you want me to take care of you when you're old? Do you want me to take care of your health care? Okay, but now you'll be my slave. And it's a contract. It has to be willing. You can't just impose it on someone. And the way I know this is true is because my children are not U.S. citizens. And we had an issue with regard to their some legal situations, and the lawyers were trying to say that because my husband and I were both born in states of the Union, that made them citizens. And I had to correct and get them to understand the truth of the matter, which they did, and acquiesce. You just fill out a W-8, then you're a non-citizen national. You have rights as a free man. You are not under the control of the government. That's why they want to give these young illegal immigrants driver licenses, because that contract is the contract that says, now you're my slave. Now you've agreed to be and do what I tell you to do, as opposed to being a free man who does what God tells him or whatever they want to do as a free human being.
Well, basically, Stephen, do you have any comment at all on what Lauren from Ohio is saying? Because this whole idea that you can have a separate status other than American citizen is new to me. What do you know about it?
Well, if a child is born out of this country, even though they're not, and they're born to American citizens, but the American citizens did not register the birth at the consulate or embassy in the country in which the children were born, they are not citizens. If they are adopted from another country, they are not automatically American citizens. So she's right about that.
All right, fine. Anything else, Lauren, before we let you go?
No, just enjoying the conversation. And really, people, you have to understand, this is an invasion. That's how they got rid of the Indians. They brought enough white people in, and when they had enough, the Cherokee people were put on the Trail of Tears. You are being bred out of your seats. You need to get your children out of schools. You need to stop obeying illegitimate authority, and you need to keep your money in your pocket. If you don't owe somebody taxes, you need to understand who owes taxes. Non-citizen nationals, free Americans, they don't owe anybody the fruit of their labor. Unalienable rights. So we need to keep that in mind.
All right,
thanks so much.
Lauren, thank you. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. Have you have a question or comment? Well, Stephen, are there some other problems or issues you'd like to bring up?
Well, right now the biggest issue, of course, is what's going on with the Bergdahl, the Bergdahl situation, and how much the president knew and the Defense Department knew prior to the trading of him for the 5, in effect, generals of the jihadist terrorist movement. Every one of his fellow soldiers has called him a deserter, and several of them have noted that he understood that when he went AWOL, we'd have to send soldiers after him, and that their deaths, 6 of them died because of him going AWOL, that those deaths are his deaths. And, of course, the President of the United States authorized that in 2009 when he went missing. This is totally an Obama situation. And today we find out that President Obama and the Defense Department have allowed the parents of Bergdahl to sit in on secret confidential hearings and meetings where national secrets are given, and of course we now know that Bergdahl's father has been in contact with the jihadists and the terrorists, and how much of the secret American information about American operations did this guy give to the terrorists in Afghanistan? This is a scandal that may be the biggest scandal since Benedict Arnold in American history.
Well, it certainly sounds as if Bergdahl will not contact his parents. He claims he was tortured and brutalized after he tried to escape from the Taliban. And it's hard to know what's going on. I certainly think that the whole situation over there is terribly tragic. Whichever side you take, basically we should not be there. What happened on September 11, 2001 was a controlled demolition, and they used that as a justification to take us into a war. Let me repeat that. If you doubt that, I certainly all you need to do is watch Building 7 come down. But what happened on September 11th was a controlled demolition of Building Number 7. And, of course, I believe that they killed the Americans in the other building. They wanted an excuse to go to war. They got one. Well, let's go to Dean, who's calling us from Oklahoma. Again, our number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. Dean, do you have a question for our guest?
Well, I do have a comment, Dr. Monteith, if I may say so. The 14th Amendment was unconstitutional from the beginning and never was intended to give automatic citizenship to anyone that was born here. There's an excellent work on this that was prepared by a Judge Perez many years ago. The title is called The Unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment. It can be found online, by the way.
I'm sure there are many, many questions about the 14th Amendment, but basically it is accepted today, and supposedly it was to allow the slaves then to have American citizenship, but it has certainly been overused and misused, I fear, and I share your concern about it. Anything else you'd like to say?
No, that's all. Thank you very much, though.
All right, fine, and please keep listening, and your job is to get other people listening and understand how the 14th Amendment is being used to undermine the very fabric of our society. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. Well, let's see, Stephen, what do you see as the outcome with the Bergdahl controversy? Right now, he won't even talk to his parents.
Well, we don't know that. We have the President of the United States and his administration, the very same people that lied about the IRS, the NSA, lied about Benghazi, now telling us Bergdahl doesn't want to talk to his parents. I don't believe anything that comes out of this administration. That may be true, it may not be true, but it's certainly not provable when they say that he says that he's been tortured. Again, it's the federal government that is saying this, the same government that lied to us about Benghazi. Why should we believe them now? At what point do we finally say, and I'm at that point, that President Obama is a liar, and no matter what he says, cannot be accepted as truth? It's just another statement from somebody that's a serial liar. We don't know that he's not been in touch with his parents. Just because the president's staff says that doesn't mean it's true.
All right, I certainly can't argue with you at all on that, and certainly I think that people have to understand that basically reality is usually scoffed at and illusion is usually king, and most of what you learn from the media, it just isn't true. I think, is that a fair appraisal?
Oh, that's an absolute fair appraisal. The media told us that Benghazi was caused by a film. That was a total, absolute lie. We had the National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, on TV a week ago Sunday, saying that Bergdahl served with honor and distinction. She knew that was a lie. And this is the same woman that, after Benghazi, lied about the reasons for Benghazi. She cannot be trusted. I mean, she is a caught serial liar. But she's a national security advisor. She's the one who's advising the president on national security, and she's a known liar. So this whole Bergdahl thing, we don't know what the facts are. It may be that he won't talk to his parents. It may be that he has talked to them. Who knows? We don't even know if the parents hadn't been secretly flown to Germany to be with the son, or not flown to Germany. This is not a government that can be trusted or relied on for telling the truth. And when they say something, you have to, just shake your head and as Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. In this case, it's distrust, then verify.
And I think it's so important people understand we're going to have to start organizing locally and suddenly find people locally. There should be somebody in every precinct. Somebody needs to take on suddenly the responsibility for getting one person in every precinct. Who'll get a dozen people in every precinct. And if we're going to preserve our freedom, it's going to have to be done from the ground up rather than from the top down, because at the top it's totally corrupt. Would you agree or disagree with that, Stephen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the most famous words are, if you want to keep your doctor, you can. That was said by Barack Obama, and he knew he was lying. He said there'd be no taxes. He knew he was lying. He said that it would cost $2,500 less. He knew he was lying. He knew he was lying about Benghazi. He knew he was lying about NSA and the IRS. Why should we believe anything he says? And we need to make sure that the media knows that we don't trust them if they just repeat his lies and not question them. How do we know, Mr. President, that Bergdahl doesn't want to see his parents? Prove it to us.
I thought it was very interesting today that the Congressional Budget Office, which is at least theoretically an independent organization, said that the Obamacare is going to lead to the suddenly the loss of another 2.5 million jobs, and basically it's going to cost over a period of a decade about $1 trillion. We don't have $1 trillion. What's going to happen?
Well, Obamacare is going to have to be cut back. It is a total disaster. To paraphrase the left, Obama lied and people died. And in this case, people are dying because of lack of health care, crowded health care facilities, lack of the death panels are already in place, stopping certain drugs for women with breast cancer from getting life-saving drugs. There are other drugs that are being held back. I don't know if you noticed the story today, but hospitals around the country, in the whole country, not just California, have a shortage of saline, which, as you know, is extremely important in hospitals. And there's a shortage, and the manufacturers say it will take over a year to catch up to the need. And this is because the president, in his 5 years in office, has made it so difficult for pharmaceuticals to stay in business, just as he's tried to close down the coal industry. The pharmaceutical industry, due to Obamacare, is only allowed to make a certain number of drugs. And the wide range of drugs that used to be available are no longer available. And starting January 1st, we're going to have a couple hundred less drugs available to patients around the country. And so the drug companies are no longer able to produce as they used to, and they have to close down assembly lines to create drugs needed by Americans. And saline, even though it only costs, according to the article, $1.57 to produce each dose of saline, each bag of saline, there's just not enough manufacturing available to do it. And so a lot of people are being harmed through every aspect of Obamacare, and we were told that things would be better, and instead we are becoming easily and quickly a third world country healthcare-wise.
And I think that most people find it so difficult. How could you possibly have a shortage of saline? I mean, it costs you $1.59 for a bottle of it. Well, they can do all sorts of things, and we're finding increasingly that legitimate drugs are hard to come by. If you have a question or comment, our telephone number 1-888-24-LIBERTY. Stephen, one more time, how can people get in touch with your ministry?
They can go to capoliticalreview.com, capoliticalreview.com, or they could sign up on Twitter at CA Political News.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back.
While the storm clouds gather
Stephen, we've got about 3 minutes for you to wrap up the program. You go right ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Stan. I always enjoy being on your show and explaining to your audience how government lies. And under President Obama, that's all it does. The American public needs to question anything and everything that comes out of this administration. It is very seldom that you could find something that is the honest truth that comes out of Washington, D.C. or the White House under the Obama administration. We're living in an age where the media is if not controlled by the White House, it is cowered by the White House. If they want to be able to get scoops, if they want to get interviews, they have to agree to mislead the American public. And that's a very sad state of affairs. But that's the type of society we live in. We have a president that can't tell the truth. We have a Congress that refuses to stand up to him. And we have a court system that allows the President of the United States to willy-nilly just violate the law without any punishment. And all of this is because we, the American people, don't demand elected officials that will do their job. And if that job means to call the president to task or to openly say you have lied to us, and that's Republicans and Democrats, we need to have elected officials that are willing to tell the truth about the actions of the president rather than saying this is terrible, you shouldn't do this again. That's what we're facing. It's not going to be changed by me. It's not going to be changed by Dr. Stan. It's going to be changed by those who listen to the show and other shows like it, who read the California Political News and Views and other blogs and newsletters like it to get the education they need. But then once they're educated to the issues, be free to tell their friends and neighbors and get involved in the political process. If you stay home and watch reruns of Seinfeld or the Dodgers on TV, you're not solving the problem of a government gone wild.
And, of course, one of the big disappointments to me was the poor voter turnout just a couple of days ago, with little more than 30% of the vote of people voting. And basically, we found out, certainly in the exit polls, that a lot of times the bad people did win. The bad people won because the good people stayed at home. It's time we all got involved. Would you agree, Stephen?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to have to let you go. We're out of time. God bless. Thanks very much for being with us here.
Thank you. God bless.
Well, this is Dr. Stan back here at Radio Liberty, and of course this is the time when I need to remind our listeners out across America that my ministry, Radio Liberty, is primarily listener-supported, and we're really dependent upon those of you out across America who listen to our programs to help us, first of all, help us by telling other people about the program. Encourage them to listen. I mean, suddenly ask them questions. Try to get their thoughts focused on what's really going on, and then, of course, even more than that, we do need the financial help from you and from others, and basically, suddenly you can join the Radio Liberty family of supporters. Suddenly, you can certainly subscribe to our newsletter. You can certainly get the various tape sets we have, and if you haven't got the tape set on Hitler, did Hitler survive? Suddenly, Hitler did survive. They've lied to you all these years about Adolf Hitler, and you'll actually hear witnesses, interviews with 3 different people, responsible people who've been to South America, who've talked to the people who knew Adolf Hitler, who helped Adolf Hitler, who were suddenly very close to Adolf Hitler until he died in 1965. So basically, did Hitler survive? And absolutely essential 4-CD set, because if they can convince you that Hitler died in the bunker, they can convince you of anything. And then, of course, we have another excellent 4-CD set. It's called The War on the Jews, my interviews with John Loftus, who actually had a security clearance 3 levels above top secret. 3 levels above top secret. And so basically what he found out, of course, was that not only did the United States government and certainly our intelligence agencies and certainly our go ahead and finance the Nazis, and we had 100 American corporations over there in Europe, building the weapons for Adolf Hitler, certainly providing them before the war, during the war, and then after the war, certainly our intelligence agencies helping certainly the Nazis escaped to South America because they were war criminals that committed terrible atrocities against the Jews. But of course they were allowed, they were helped, they were fostered. Everything was done to make sure that the war criminals actually got away to South America, and it wasn't just to South America, but places all throughout the world. But tens of thousands, somewhere between 30 and 50,000 Nazi war criminals escaped to South America following the Second World War and elsewhere, and certainly 2 generations later, why the network is intact. And of course, behind the whole Nazi movement was this move towards the one world government, this world occult system. Understand these things don't just happen by accident. Behind everything going on, there are powerful spiritual forces. That's why you need to get our 4 CD sets on Did Hitler Escape? And certainly the war against the Jews, and John Loftus's excellent book, certainly America's Nazi Secret. And they're all available by calling 1-800-544-8927. 1-800-544-8927. And basically, your job is to get this information. You have our permission. Anything that I have done, you have my permission to go ahead and copy it and get this information out. We need to get people thinking. We need to make them understand that Hitler was simply a front. He played his part very, very well. But remember, Adolf Hitler was deeply involved in the occult, and the people who were actually financing him and backing him were involved in the occult. And the whole purpose of World War II was to bring about a one-world government. And when that failed, of course, why it became obvious we were going to have a World War II, apart from World War III, and that is in the offing right now. Understand that the plans are already being made for World War III, and I fear this is going to be a nuclear war. That's why you should begin making your preparations accordingly. People say, well, it couldn't happen. It just couldn't happen. Well, I'm sure the people of Germany didn't think it could ever happen to them. They were a fine, civilized society, a Christian society, and see what happened there. My number is 1-800-544-8927. Please pray for Radio Liberty.